YouTube and on X. A very good day to you, Watford supporters, on this brand new edition of YOU ORNS post-match. This is live stuff now on YouTube and on X. Thank you very much indeed for the Watford supporters for joining me. Omar Moore here with another edition of the post-match. Well, honours even today, that was the story from Vicarage Road. Watford won, Coventry City won, and I think, like the last game that Watford played when they lost 1-0 at Bramall Lane, this really was the result that you can't really complain about from a Watford standpoint. In fact, if you're a Watford supporter today, you have to be very fortunate. You consider your lucky stars that we got a draw from this game. Coventry dominated the first half of the game. They absolutely were better than us in all departments in the first half. And then in the second half, that's when we really came into this contest and started to be a real threat. I thought that had our shot making and had our play in midfield and our coordination been better, we might have been able to take 3 points from this game. But I think even if we had done that, it would have been very much against the run of play as far as I'm concerned, because Watford today looked awful in that first half. The defense was all over the place. They did exactly what I told you that they have to watch out for and not do in the first half. I was very clear about that. If you joined me on the YOU ORNS pre-match on both Instagram and on YouTube, I made it very clear that what Watford have to do is watch out and avoid conceding the early goal. And what did they do? They did just what I told them not to do, which is to concede the early goal. And that's happened now for 3 consecutive contests. It's a bit of a problem now for Watford. We've gone these last 3 games in a row, and inside the first 4 minutes, we've given away an early goal. That is a problem. Our defense today was not particularly sharp, especially in that first half. This was a game that Watford, I thought, could have been better in had they taken care of the football better. The loose passes, the stray passes really hurt us today. We got picked apart there. And I think the midfield was a big reason why. Our midfield was very untethered today. I didn't see us gain the balance of the pitch. For much of the first half, we didn't have it. We were getting overrun in our midfield flanks. We didn't have any ball sticking in our midfield at all. We didn't seem to have any tempo on our midfield. And it really did hurt us in that first half. Coventry were very opportunistic. And again, Watford fans, thank you very much indeed for joining on X. Hit the request button. If you would like your say, you are welcome to have your say here on YOU ORNS post-match. We're also live on YouTube at the moment. Your comments will be read out, so please give them to us, and I'll read them out to Watford fans everywhere. It's great for you to be here. Thank you very much indeed for joining. Coventry had those chances in that first half to bury us, and that's why I think today I'm not too disappointed with the result. I'm disappointed with how we played this match. I'm disappointed and very concerned about Georgie. And now for me here in San Francisco watching the game, I thought it was his knee. Now, obviously, I've had some Watford fans who are much, much closer to the action, literally a good 10 feet away from Georgie at the Vic in the Sir Elton John stand, who told me that it was his back. So apparently there's a back injury, according to Watford fans who were at the Vic today, who were literally about 15 to 20 feet, 20 yards or so away from Georgie, and they said they saw it, said that it looked like it was his back. So look, I'm much more happy that it was his back rather than his knee, because if it was his knee, with that stretcher, you know that's bad news. It's his back. The fact he was on the stretcher there obviously makes sense if it is his back, and then hopefully he won't miss too much time for us. I thought Georgie, speaking of which, was very influential in the game, as he often always is. He had an excellent international break. So you're very happy about Georgie's play, not with this predicament. And of course, every Watford fan here, we all, as Watford fans in the Watford family, wish Georgie a speedy recovery. And I wish him the very best of health, and very quickly indeed. The other player that was particularly effective today, I thought, was Larouci. I thought Larouci today, for the first time as a starter, now he started before, but for the first time in a starting role, I thought was very effective. He was able to charge down a lot of the spaces that Watford players weren't charging into, and he was a good threat with the ball, put in some very good crosses in the box in tight areas. He's got a lot of pace about him. The ball stuck to him very well today, and I like the way he crossed the ball into the box. Really good areas to put the ball in, and he put them everywhere. Just couldn't find a Watford head. Watford players just not getting that end of that to the end of his great crosses. I thought Larouci was really good in this game. It's his best game as a Watford player, as a starting Watford player, I should say. And so he and Georgie were the real spark plugs in the first half of the game and for much of the game. And then when Larouci came out of the game in part of that triple change that was desperately needed by Clevs, obviously things started to gel for the club. And you saw within like 2 or 3 minutes of that change being made, the goal came for us, and we were knocking on the door in that second half. We were much, much better in the second half. I felt that our play was better because we moved the ball a little bit faster. We had our numbers. We were able to get players into areas that they weren't getting into in the first half, and we also were less tentative. I noticed that in our first half play, we were very tentative with what we were doing. I didn't like the way that the ball was moving at all. It was too slow. We didn't make use of our pitch well enough in the first half, but in the second half, I think Clevs at halftime told them, make better use of the space and the pitch, make the pitch bigger, and they did. Watford made the pitch a lot bigger second half, moved the ball quicker, made use of the whole width of the pitch, and as a result, you got TDB on the right-hand side, coming up in front of the rookery with really what was a tap-in off of a missed shot or a rebounded shot. And it was an easy tap-in, pretty much a tap-in from fairly close range for TDB. I think that's his first of the season, if I'm not mistaken. Certainly his first in the championship from what I can remember. His first of the season, TDB getting off the mark. And you're seeing different players score different goals. And that was a very important goal for Watford. And after that, they continued to kick on until the injury for Georgie, which happened just a few short minutes afterwards. I think that was a big factor because that moment Watford had the momentum, they had the ascendancy, and looked very dangerous, playing the kind of football that you would have wished for in the first half of this game. And I think one of the things that you've got to look at is Watford's ability to start these games better. Now, the first few games of the season, when we had the 100% record, we didn't have a problem with this. But now that we've dropped points in each of these last two championship contests, we're beginning to see those bad habits again, conceding those goals early. Now, it happened in the Derby County game as well, but we won that game. But the previous two games, including this one today, we have had a problem switching on in the first 2 or 3 minutes of a game. And if you look back at the goal that was scored today by Coventry City, it was so poorly defended. You look at that player, Sims, he's the number 9 for them. He was able to roam about. Nobody tracked him at all. He was not tracked in that first couple of minutes from the corner kick. You know what you have to do as a defender in the corner kicks. You've got to watch for those runners and roamers. And Watford players did not look at Sims at all. You've got to pick up that number 9. You've got to pick up your man, first of all, but pick up the number 9. He was allowed, untouched, to just hover and roam about and just get an easy header. There was no Watford player within 5 yards of him. It's an atrocity to give up a goal like that. I'm sorry. It's an atrocity to give up a goal like that. And to give up a goal like that inside of 3.5 minutes, that is a really poor job. And that's really the thing that hurts you when you look back at this game, because that goal from Coventry was a rubbish goal to give up. Poor goal. It wasn't a goal of quality. It was a goal down to opportunism and poor defending by us. Our defense was a shambles in that first half. Got a little bit better in the second half, but we were very fortunate today. I actually take pride out of the fact we got a point out this game, because we probably would have lost this game last season. Our defending today was not anything to be proud of. Very shaky. Our midfield was not strong. I think you've got to be very fortunate and thankful you got a point today. The second half, we were much better, obviously, as I said, but we didn't build on our momentum enough. And then the injury came, and I think that really changed the whole thing for Watford. And then you saw Coventry. They hit the post in the second half. Coventry had chances first half. They should have buried us. We should have been 3-0 down at halftime. We were very fortunate. And then second half, they hit the post. And Daniel Batman had to make a couple of saves second half to keep us where we were. So 13 minutes of added time. Surely you were thinking with 13 minutes, we would have pulled one out the fire. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Our first draw at home this season. So our 100% record at home comes to an end. And a game I thought, despite the fact that Watford didn't play that well, was still a very winnable contest in the second half. This was a very winnable contest for us, second half, based on our play. I thought that we were much, much stronger. I liked the new addition. Ebisele was pretty good on the ball, I thought. You know, much of his distribution was pretty good. He had some good quality moments. He had a couple of stumbles. Jefferson, for me, did not really make a mark in this particular contest. Daniel Jefferson still waiting for his first Watford goal. Now, look, he's not started these games yet. Bio did not have a great game. I expect that probably in the next couple of weeks, we might see Jefferson starting these games. Now, we'll see if it happens. Neither of them are scoring at the minute. Bio's had the one goal against Derby. Rajovic, of course, is on loan for the season. If there's any change, if we don't get any goals from our front players, obviously we're going to be looking in January for somebody, probably, if that happens. But I think Tom Cleverley here, fellow Watford fans, and you can chime in on this and give your thoughts if you wish. Cleverley has made a bet that he can get goals from anywhere else on the pitch besides his strikers. He's made that bet. And so far, that bet appears to be paying off. 16 goals now in 5 games for Watford. If you're looking at that, 16 games, excuse me, if you're including the cup games as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think Cleverley's betting on getting goals from all areas of the pitch. And so far, that bet's paid off. Ryan Andrews has scored a goal. TDB has scored a goal. Sissoko scored a goal. We've seen goals from Georgie. We've seen goals from, of course, the likes of Rajovic scoring the winner against Millwall. We've seen goals from the likes of Bio. He scored against Derby, as I mentioned. And so Kayembe is coming with 3 goals. So I think that the reason why, and I just want to get onto this because I talked about this in pre-match, the reason why we don't see Rajovic here, and I really would be very skeptical about what Clev says about having him come back beginning of next season, is because I think Clevs is making a gamble that he can get goals elsewhere. I think that they've obviously got eyes on other players to come in here for next season. You know, there's no secret that Watford scouts are always busy across the world looking for talent. And of course, our academy pipeline needs to continue to improve, and we need to get more of those lads in. We've got some of them in already. But I think that when you're in football, you have to be very forward thinking. And you can't be just looking at today. You've also got to be looking at tomorrow. You've got to be looking at next week. You've got to be looking at next year, next season. And I think that when you get rid of a Rajovic, who really is a fairly one-dimensional player, but has scored, he scores goals, but he doesn't do very much else for you on the pitch. I think that the Watford brass have made that gamble. They've made that absolute gamble. And I think that I don't think Rajovic is going to play another minute of football for Watford. That's my view. It doesn't matter what Cleverley says in August or September. It's what happens in the off-season. And the fact that you've loaned him out to Brøndby, knowing that you're pretty thin up top as it is for me a sign that you probably aren't going to be doing much with him when he comes back to Watford next season. I'm going to read out your comments and your thoughts. Please, if you are on X, you are more than welcome to have your say. Watford fans here after Watford won, Coventry City won. An odd game, I thought, a tale of two halves. And then we had the injury to Georgie. We'll see how that affects the team because Georgie was one of the 2 players on the day in the Watford shirt who were really good. I thought Larouci had his best game as a Watford player. So that's certainly as a starter, his best game. And of course, Georgie, who just, continues to set down a marker and invigorates this Watford team. That's what I love about Georgie. He's always passionate with what he does. There was a really lung-busting, gut-busting run that he made. I think it was in the second half. He ran about 60 yards toward the rookery end with the ball. He was probably so gassed. The final pass was not very good from him. But it was that forward-thinking effort from him that you really love. Same with Larouci today. Very active, great precision with his passes. Just needed the Watford head on those passes. Watford had, I think, 7 shots on target today, or maybe 6, to Coventry's 5. And there were at least, I think we had 18 shot attempts overall to Coventry's 15. Roughly, those are the stats. I'll have to get them confirmed. But that's in the ballpark of what happened. Watford much better in the second half. We have got to work on how we start these games. And Matt on YouTube, thank you, Matt, for your comments. I would love to know, says Matt, Who was meant to be marking Sims during the corner? Plus, I hope Clevs works on marking players during set pieces. Yeah, Matt, that's a big problem. Before you chimed in with that comment, Matt, on YouTube, thank you very much for it. I was saying the same thing, and you, of course, are live on X and YouTube at the moment. I was saying this very same thing, Matt. This was a terrible goal to concede. Terrible goal. Sims was not touched, and I've seen the replay 3 times. He was not touched. I'm sorry, that's a cardinal sin in football. You have got to watch your man, and you've got to pick up that number 9. I mean, you've got to pick up. And I saw 3 Watford players bunched together, and then there's 3, 4 Coventry players behind them. And one of them was Sims, and he was allowed to roam and roam and roam. I'm telling you, at the film session that they do, Matt, tomorrow or Monday, probably going to be tomorrow, they're going to be looking at that piece of film over and over on a loop, because there's no way on earth that you can allow a striker to have an open header in the 3rd minute, 4th minute of a contest. You can't let that happen. It can't happen in these games. And unfortunately, Watford just were not switched on at all for the first corner of a game. That is really poor. And Matt, you're right. You know, they've got to work on the set pieces. You would have thought, Matt, that they would have done this during the preseason, you know, but you've got to work on this constantly in football. To everybody listening and watching, you have to work on the basics. You know, Clevs, if you remember before the international break, everybody cleverly talked about this in the post-match for the game we lost at Bramall Lane, when he said, you know, we didn't do the footballing fundamentals today. We were guilty today, said Clevs, of not doing the fundamentals. And he's absolutely right. And it's happened again today. You know, we didn't do the fundamentals right in this game. Poor passing, poor set pieces, you know, poor marking. I mean, that's schoolboy stuff there, Matt. You're absolutely right. Matt on YouTube with the comment. I'm going to go to Uncle Ron, but I want to just read out, before I go to Uncle Ron, just read out the rest of what Matt has had to say here on YouTube. Thank you, everybody. And do what Uncle Ron has done. He is buzzed in here, and I'm going to put Uncle Ron in a second. Here are the comments from Matt. Before Georgie went off, he was my man of the match. The way he was getting past the Coventry defense in the second half, and his assist for the goal for TDB, absolutely right. And he also said the game stats, Watford total shots 18, 6 on target. So I was very close. I said 17 and 6. And Brown Electron says we weren't great, but it wasn't that bad. Coventry are a good side. Thank you for the comments, everyone on YouTube. I'm going to go to Uncle Ron on X. I do hope for those of you on YouTube, you'll be able to hear what Uncle Ron has to say. Right now, it's over to you, Uncle Ron. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. You're on You ORNS post-match.
Good afternoon, Omar.
Good afternoon, Uncle Ron.
Good morning for you, I believe.
Yes, it is a good morning here. Yep, thank you.
I'm very, very annoyed by that today, Omar. Very annoyed. I'm annoyed to start with the manager, because in the week he said that he'd worked out, and I think he used the word easy, in terms of why we were starting slowly. And lo and behold, another terrible start. So I don't like that at all. I don't like that. We seem to come out as if we're playing a friendly or a testimonial. So this is a big problem. Got away with it because we should have been out. You know, Coventry should have been out of sight. But another thing I'm very unhappy about is Rajovic being allowed to leave. I don't understand. Jefferson was brought in, doesn't start the game. I'll go on to Jefferson in a moment. So we have Bio starting, and I'm just rather tired of hearing or seeing Bio go close. If your striker isn't scoring, it's irrelevant. Jefferson came on, and dare I say it, he reminded me a little bit of Jamie Morley. Seemed a bit ragdoll-esque. I know it's very early days, but this was the player brought in, Omar. This is the player that they hung their hats on, saying this is the player they wanted, the striker they wanted. He's not starting games, and he missed the chance that I think everyone will agree Rajovic buries. he buries that chance. So we got away with it, but it's very disappointing for me today. Very disappointing.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game. We were very lucky today. Very fortunate, Uncle Ron. Someone on YouTube, Brown Electrons, has said, still early days, Ron. That was from Brown Electrons on YouTube. I agree with you, Uncle Ron. It was disappointing the way we played this game. Look, I'm not the biggest Rajovic fan, but he does put the ball in the back of the net, and we certainly could have used some more of that today. I was saying before you chimed in, before you came on to the post-match, I was telling people, I don't think the Watford brass have any plans for him to stay here. Obviously, when you loan him out for a season-long loan, as they've done, Ron, to Brøndby, you're telling us that you're probably not bringing him back here. And if he does come back here, and I know Clev says so, I'm very skeptical as if they're ever going to really use him again. I think Tom Cleverley is banking, Uncle Ron, on them getting goals from other areas of the pitch. I think that's what they're going to do. And we could use him. We could use Rajovic for all my criticism of him. He scores, which is more than what listen, I'm a big fan of Bio, but he doesn't score. He doesn't score. He does everything very well except score. And we need goals. I mean, goals win games. You can do a lot of things well, but if you don't put the ball in the back of the net, Brown Electrons has said something else on YouTube, and thanks for this comment. Brown Electrons says, are we forgetting how poor Rajovic is half the time? Now, look, again, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. But, and I agree with you, Brown Electrons on YouTube. But again, in a game like this, you do need goal scoring. Jebison, look, it is early on him. Jebison is somebody who I hope starts to get going very soon. But Bio has not got it done here. 1 goal so far from him. We need some goals from somewhere. I don't care where. TDB got one today. But you shouldn't be relying on your midfield players to get the job done. Uncle Ron, any other comments from you?
No, not really. No, but he, as I said, he's brought Jebison in. He's said it's his decision to send Rajovic away, so he should be starting Jebison. Now, is Jebison not starting because he's not actually that good?
Well, I listen. I think that Jefferson should be starting these games now too. You can't mess about. You brought him in here. He's 21 years old. Just turned 21 a few weeks ago. Use him. Get him involved. Light a fire under Bio. I agree. Start the man. I don't know if it's because he's not that good. Obviously, he's not shown up yet for us. It's still a game and a half or whatever it's been. He's played 20 minutes in the last game 2 weeks ago, 25 today. Jebison needs to start these games. I agree. Uncle Ron, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Omar.
Yeah, take care of yourself. And that was Uncle Ron there on X. I think everybody did hear you heard Uncle Ron there on YouTube as well, talking about this. He's not happy with the way that Bio's been playing, and he's not happy with the moves for the manager as far as that's concerned. Not good today, says Uncle Ron, and I agree. It's not the best performance from us. I'm pretty pleased that we got a point out of this because, as I said before, Watford did not play well that first half. Coventry should have been up 3-0 at halftime in that game today. So I think sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I thought we were much better in the second half of this contest. The Watford fans on X, if you wish, follow the lead of Uncle Ron and please have your 2 cents, have your 2 pennies, have your shillings, have your say on this edition of You ORNS Post-Match. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll do this for about 5 or 6 minutes or so, reading out your comments also on YouTube before we head over to Instagram as well to join us for this post-match. After Watford won, Coventry City won. Matt says, after watching Jefferson, he needs to start the next game and give him a chance to show him what Clevs has brought him into this team. I agree, Matt. We've got to start Jefferson now. The end of story. Bio scored a lovely goal, obviously against Derby, the last home game prior to this. But we now need to bring in Jefferson from the start and let's see what he really has. Coming off the bench, you sometimes don't get a good gauge of a striker when you're bringing him off the bench. Sometimes you get a better gauge for what a striker can do when he starts from the start of a game. And I want to see Jefferson in here now. I'm sure I'm not the only Watford fan besides Matt who wants the same. Eberselli looked very rusty, says Brown Electrons. Needs to get up to speed. Yeah, I mean, Eberselli, I thought he was quite decent. I don't think he was great. I would agree. But I liked it. I mean, at least he got on the ball a bit. Yeah, there was a couple of times he had a purple patch. Eberseli, youngster who come in for Watford. We got him just a few weeks before, maybe the week of the transfer window shutting. Yeah, look, he needs to get some more playing time, Brown Electrons. Thanks for the comment. I do agree. He put it this way: he needs more playing time to get his feet established into the game. That's the only thing about him. I thought, again, the two players today, and I've talked about this before, the two players today for Watford who were very effective were Larouci and obviously Georgie. Both of them I thought were very good throughout this game. And I agree with you, Brown Electrons. Also, Rocco Vata looked decent. That's what Brown Electrons said on YouTube. Yeah, he did. He did. Looked lively, looked quick, looked sharp to the ball. I liked his move. You know what I liked about Rocco today, Brown Electrons, was his movement. His movement was very good. And I think that you need players who are hungry like that to establish space, to get into areas of the pitch, and to give defenders something to think about. He's good. He's good that way. He's got an aptitude to get in there and get going and not sit around and stand around and be a bump on a log. I like players who are dynamic, and that's what Rocco was today. Looked decent out there with the ball, liked the way he was running into space, had a real attitude for goal, had a real hunger to bring the ball forward. In that way, he's kind of similar in some ways to Georgie like that, but he's got a good first touch on the ball as well, Rocco. He looked good in preseason too. So Rocco Vata, he's now going to be someone who's going to be featured, I think, a bit more. Obviously, we've got some injury concerns. We've got the likes of a Jeremy Ngakia, who is probably going to be out for maybe, a couple more weeks? Who knows? You've got the likes of players like Ogbonna in defense, who's going to be back hopefully in a few weeks. He'll be playing for us. And then there's one or two others. We've got Kevin Kebben, who I think is the midfielder that we brought in, if I'm not mistaken, who had a knee problem before he even signed pen to paper. So that's going to probably bring him in. I think Clev said this a couple of weeks ago. October is before you're going to get to see Kevin Kebben in here. I think the midfield today took a real hit for us. Our midfield was not good enough today. We didn't have, as I said earlier, before some of you came in on X, we didn't have enough of a grasp in midfield today. I thought we lost that battle for the most part. I think we regained it somewhat in the second half. But I think Kevin Kebben will make a difference for us. But this formation that Clevs has, do you think it's working? Anybody want to talk about that? Brown Electrons agrees with me on Rocco Vata. Yeah, he takes the initiative, always looks to make something happen. That's the kind of player you want at Vicarage Road. Listen, I think today, not pleased with the first half, obviously not pleased with the injury to Georgie. But what I am pleased at is that we did manage to get a point out this game. And I think Tom Cleverley, if he's really being honest with himself, he will say, the first half was poor from us. He will be very upset, I'm sure, at that opening goal. There's no way on earth, no way on the planet can you let that happen in the first 4 minutes of a game. Not marking him. It's one thing if he beats you to the ball as a defensive marker and he, as a striker, Sims, beats you to that ball, beats you to that header, you live with that because at least you contested the header. But uncontested in the first 4 minutes, not having that. You cannot be having that in these games. And Tom Cleverley will be I think he'll be furious about that. I'm sure he probably let the players have it at half time. You cannot concede a goal like that anywhere on a pitch at any time, but especially when you're 4 minutes into a game. I'm sorry. You cannot let that happen. So that's the one problem. We didn't defend well enough in the opening minutes of a game. The first time it happened, we won the game against Derby. The second time it happened, we lost the game against Sheffield United. And today, we draw the game against Coventry City, who, by the way, before this game, had lost just once in their last 10 trips to Vicarage Road. I predicted Watford 2, Coventry 1 today. It did not end that way. Every prediction I've had this season, I've been off by 1 goal. Every one of them. I thought this was going to be a tough game for Watford to start with. I thought that Watford were going to be in a tricky spot with this game because Mark Robbins, is a blooming good manager. Got to give him some credit. He got Coventry to that playoff final a couple of seasons ago before they succumbed in the penalties to that scum up the road. Mark Robins, despite where Coventry were in the table, bottom 8 before the start of this game, Mark Robins has done a good job there at Coventry, and they've been through a lot with off the pitch with the stadium and all the rest of it. They've done a good job. He's done a good job with them. No problem with. I respect Mark Robins. They've done a good job, and Coventry always play us tough at the Vic. Always, always, always. We've gone to their place 2 straight seasons in a row now and had 2-0 leads and blown both of them. Blown both of them. So we've played better at their patch, and then they've played better at our patch. And again, before today's game, in the last 10 trips to the Vic, Coventry had only lost once. You got to take that for what it's worth, and you got to put this whole game in that context, because they bossed us that first half. They absolutely bossed us. And I'm sorry, you got this game, despite the fact we played poorly. I'm pleased that we got a point. We were very lucky today. A team that has only lost once against us at the Vic in the last 10 trips to the Vic, and we come out of that with a point. I look at that as somewhat a moral victory. And I know there's no moral victories in sports, but blimey, we were so fortunate today. They hit a post second half. They should have buried us first half. You know, how many balls did we give away in front of our 18-yard box in our midfield? We were poor in mid today. Poor first half. How many balls did we give away in that midfield area? And Coventry pounced. Their game plan was to swarm every ball that we missed, every loose ball, every poor pass. 3 Coventry players, bang, bang, bang. I watched the game from start to finish, as did you. You noticed they swarmed the ball instantly, bang, on the counter. And then they caught us on the odd man. If it wasn't for a couple of clearances from Matty Pollock and a clearance from Sierralta, they would have bombed us that first half. We were really, really fortunate to get a point today. I'm not disappointed that we got a point. I'm disappointed at that first half where we were so bad, so bad. I mean, I'm just giving you the brutal honesty of a Watford supporter here, and I'm saying this from San Francisco. I saw the game from here. A lot of you were at the game. Some of you were at the Vic. Some of you were right there watching the game. And I'm telling you, we did not play well. Again, that's a real problem. That first 5 minutes of a game, that's becoming another bad habit. We did this in some parts of the last few seasons as well, conceding these early goals, conceding these late goals. And I, for one, predicted Watford 2, Coventry 1 today. And there are some Watford fans who had it much more optimistic than that, really underrating Coventry. Coventry are a good side. Again, I'm not trying to make excuses for anything, but Coventry are a good side. And that early position, bottom 8 for them, very deceptive, very deceptive. When you consider, as I will repeat yet again, in the last 10 trips to the Vic, Coventry had only lost once. I mean, you got to look at this as some kind of moral victory for us. I said before the game, for those of you watching, and thank you for doing so on YouTube and listening on X, go for another few minutes, I promise, and then we'll move forward to Instagram as well. Have your say on X if you'd like. Uncle Ron has already chimed in. He talked earlier on X about the game, how he was not happy with Rajovic being cast off to Brøndby. There has been differing opinions about that. Listen, we need goals, but I am not the biggest fan of Rajovic in the building, as some of you may or not be. But the bottom line here is when you consider the fact that Watford had only, 9 games. We've only beat them once in the last 10 trips to the Vic. I mean, again, Coventry are a good side. We just need to be better. And what I was mentioning before this game, I want to mention this now in pre-match. I said this in pre-match here when I predicted 2-1 Watford. I also said that we will learn a lot more about our club after a defeat. You don't learn anything about your club after you win these games. We had a perfect August. I was saying that we were going to lose one of these games eventually. But you don't learn anything about your team when you win 5 games in a row and you're 100%. You learn about your team when they've lost a game. That's what you learn something about your club. When they start losing matches, when they drop points, you learn about your club. And what we learned today, at least what I learned today from this match, after the 2-week international break following that defeat against Sheffield United, was that Watford were resilient, that we were resilient, number one. but we have a lot of progress to make. We've got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. I'm sorry. You cannot come off of an international break and 4 minutes in, you're conceding a silly goal like that. I think that's what really frustrates me, fellow Watford supporters, that we conceded a goal that poorly. We are up to fourth in the division at the minute. Table stands, Watford on fourth place on 10 points. We are a +4 goal difference. Burnley in third on 10. Blackburn Rovers on 11 points. Sunderland dropped their first game of the season. Everybody's going to lose one game. Breaking news. Every team's going to lose a game this season. Sunderland's 100% record coming to an end today as they fall to defeat. They are still top, though, on 12 points. So that's your top four. We are fourth. Look, West Brom on fourth as well. They will, on fifth rather, they will play tomorrow or later on. Sheffield United drop to fifth. They played yesterday. They beat Hull City 2-0 away from home. Those are your top positions, the playoff positions. Watford still sitting nicely in fourth. Listen, we've done well. We've done well. We've still done well. If you were to ask me right now, after 5 games, would Watford be fourth in the table? None of you here would have said yes. None of you. I guarantee, off the back of last season, what we did and how poor we were, nobody here can honestly be telling me that you would have had us at fourth place after 5. Listen, we played Sheffield United, not easy. They just got demoted from the Premier League, just got relegated. We played a rough Coventry side who, again, in 10 previous trips to the Vic, had only lost once. I listen. I still think off the balance and if you look at the context of that, I think it's a good point for us because we played terribly in that first half. Terrible football. You can't switch off when you've got opportunities like we had today. You can't switch off in the first half of a game like this. I don't think there's any excuse for it. I'm going to read out your comments. If you've got anything to say, I'm going to read your comments on X as well. And someone has just chimed in with a comment. Nick has said, 5 games in and we're fourth. I am happy with that. Thank you very much, Nick, on X for that comment. He made that comment a little bit earlier. I agree. As I've just said, can't be too disappointed with where we are. And we're going to get better. It's not that the sky is falling at all. It's just our first half was poor. And again, we'll work that out. I'm confident that we can work that out. You know, there are a lot of us as Watford supporters who had this team in the bottom 6 in a relegation scrap before the season began off the back of last season. I think we made some progress, but we've got lots of work to do. Obviously, we have got to get this thing right for the first 5 minutes of games. We got to get that right. We got to get that right. Oh my God. We cannot concede goals like that. And I think Tom Cleverley will be drilling that home to these players in the film session tomorrow because, listen, they're not having any day off tomorrow. The one thing that you do get upset about is Georgie getting hurt. Injuries happen in a football match, but hopefully this will not be too bad. I was fearing that it was his knee, but a couple of Watford fans said to me during the course of the game who were actually at the Vic that it looked like it was his back, something in his back that might have given out. That's according to Watford fans who were actually at the game, who messaged me, who got in touch with me during the game and told me that they were right there, like 10, 15 yards from him, and they saw it looked like it was his back that went down. So Georgie went off on a stretcher, and of course that makes sense if you have a back problem. It makes sense if you have a knee problem, but it definitely makes sense, obviously, if you have a back problem as well. It just didn't look good to see him come off on a stretcher because you fear the worst there. And let's hope that he comes back with a speedy recovery. Would love to see him back in the next few weeks. We'll await the official word from Watford on his status as well. I'm going to read you some of the comments on YouTube. Please feel free to chime in on X. We'll go for a little bit longer because there are a lot of comments I need to read out on YouTube. Thank you very much, Watford fans, for joining here on the You ORNS post-match on X and right here on YouTube as well on the You ORNS WFC YouTube channel. Well, it might be a fannel too. But I'm going to read out a lot of comments that come in on YouTube. Matt says, I just hope that the Georgie injury, the Czech Fatazda injury, isn't as bad as it first looked. But I now feel after Rocco Vata come on, he could cover that position where Georgie plays if it's needed. Yeah, As you said, Matt, and I know you made this comment a few minutes ago, I just got to it now. I agree. I think that Rocco is in the mold of a Georgie. He's always looking to go forward. He's got a good touch on the ball. The ball sticks to him well. I referred to that gut-busting run that Georgie made earlier in the game in the second half when he ran seemed like a full 50, 60 yards, and then his final pass let him down. But that's the spirit that you want on this club. You want go-getters. Georgie's a go-getter. He's somebody who's dynamic. He's somebody who really carries a threat going forward. He can deliver that final ball pretty well, in most cases. And he's a good set piece taker. We've seen that excellent free kick goal that you and I, as Watford fans, I actually voted for the Bio goal, but that Watford fans voted overall for goal of August. It was a tremendous strike against Millwall. That was a really good strike. I mean, we know what he's capable of. He's very capable, and I think Rocco Vata can do much the same as well. Really liked how Vata moved today. Good player. In those cup games that he played, he made a couple of appearances there as well. He was very lively in those games as well. So there we go with that. Brown Electron says, yeah, I hope the Chilean Pirlo's injury isn't too bad as well. Thank you, Brown Electrons, on YouTube for that. Matt on YouTube, again, reading out your YouTube comments, quite a few of them coming in. Watching the first half made me feel like the team had been on a holiday and not had a week or two off for the international break. Yeah, Matt, that first half, as you've heard me say, as you've watched me say, and as Watford fans everywhere on X and YouTube have seen and heard me say, that first half won't do. That first half simply cannot do for us. Again, it is early. I think that's the positive. And I know Uncle Ron, who was on X earlier that you all heard from, was not happy with the play. And I agree. I wasn't happy with the play either in the first half. But it's early doors yet. It's early doors. We still are a work in progress. It's not an excuse. It's just a reality. We are a work in progress. And there might be one or two players who aren't fit. It's a distinct possibility. This is the time of the season where you will get that. Because, you still, don't forget, there's been 2 weeks. Some of these players ain't played for 2 weeks. No, it's not an excuse. It's just an assessment of what I'm looking at on the pitch. Again, half the lot did go off on international break. Georgia was one of them. He had a very good international break. Ken Sema did as well. Kayembe was off as well on international break. He scored a fantastic goal for the Congo. Man, oh man, you got to watch that goal again. So listen, a lot of these players were off, but some of them weren't. And they need to keep working. Football's a 24/7 business. It's 24/7 for the scouting system, for the front office on the business level, and it's 24/7 for these players. They are on it. They eat, sleep, and drink football. It's that simple. For 9 months out of the year, that's what these players do. And so at the beginning of that 9 months, there's going to be a few growing pains. I don't care who you are. You have to keep working on these fundamentals. And Watford, listen, we don't have a world-beating side like City does. We don't have that here, right? We are us. And I wouldn't want us to be anything else than who we are, right? We just have to find the right balance. A lot of these first 5 to 10 games are going to be about finding out what the balance is like. It's going to be about ironing the kinks. Really, if we're really being honest, the first 5 to 10 games are an audition. Honestly, I know you can't afford to audition with the championship, but let's be really frank. A lot of these players are new. You've had the Ebiseles, and again, Vic Shaw has come in on Ebisele and said Ebisele was so bad. So Vic Score does not like Ebisele today. Listen, I agree that he wasn't great. I didn't think he was awful. I thought that there were signs, but he did have some purple patches in the game. There's no question about it. And again, Ebisele, this is his first game in the championship for Watford. So, again, not an excuse. It's a reality. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a few games for some of these players. And I know as Watford fans, we want everything to work yesterday. Some of us want everything to work yesterday. I understand that. But the reality is, it's not going to happen like that. I think, obviously, because we had such a good start the first month of the season, we want our expectations naturally are going to go up. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I understand that, as much as I understand that a lot of Watford fans before the season began had very low expectations based upon what we've seen and what they'd seen the past season, which was a really poor season for us. So I can completely understand our expectation levels are going to fluctuate based on what we've seen. It makes sense. I didn't agree with the fact that we were going to be having a relegation scrap. A load of Watford fans said that. I predicted before the season began we were going to finish mid-table, maybe 8th, 9th, or 10th. I'm still sticking to that, by the way. I'm still sticking to that. We're currently 4th, so we're punching above our weight right now. I think that Watford fans should not be concerned or disappointed about the fact that we're in 4th. I agree with what Nick said on X. I read his comment out earlier. Shouldn't be disappointed with that. Disappointed with the way we started the game today. Poor first half. No midfield. Our midfield today was not good. I think we redressed the balance better in the second half, and we got that more fluidity in our midfield, a bit more. Look, our midfield stuck a bit better second half. That's what I'll say about that. I think we made a couple of adjustments, and I think that really helped. The triple change really helped as well. It gave TDB a bit more freedom to go forward with some of the players that we put on the pitch. I was surprised that Larouci came off, by the way. That's the one thing I was surprised at from Cleverly, because usually, to this season, his subs have been right on the money. But I was surprised they took Larouci off. Perhaps Larouci was a bit tired. I don't know. But Larouci was very, very good today. His first time I've seen him start where he's been very good. I thought he was better off the bench, but this is the first starting assignment for him where I really thought he was very, very good. Still a load of comments to read out on YouTube and on X. If you've got comments, please make them either by hitting the microphone on your phone or by doing what Nick did, is write a comment in the responses and I will read them out. My goodness me, we still have a ways to go. My gosh, I still got to get the Instagrammers in here on You Orns post-match. Don't forget to subscribe, by the way, to the YouTube channel, You Orns WFC. Thank you for your subscription to that. And join me on X at You Orns WFC and on Instagram at You Orns WFC as well. It has been quite a day at the Vic, very incident-filled day at the Vic, and still got some comments to read out. My goodness me, a load of comments here. Matt says, Matt, I've read the Matt, yeah, I've read that comment from Matt. Brown Electron says, we missed Barr today. Yeah, I agree. Barr today was a big miss. He was injured. I'm not sure when he's going to be back, but Quadro Barr would have been a difference maker in this game. He has been the pleasant surprise, although not that much of a surprise, because we know that Barr has this kind of potential. This guy, I think, was on the England under 18s or something, or under 20s ones. I'm not quite sure. Got to get that correct before I say that, because I haven't got that correct yet. For sure, I should verify that. But Quadro Barr has been a really good player for us. He is a difference maker. And unfortunately, yeah, we did miss him today, Brown Electrons. Bringing him on, says Brown Electrons, may have helped in that second half. Yeah, Brown Electrons, I agree with you on YouTube. Thank you for the comment. I think that he would have been a real difference maker in this game. He's been very much that in the past for us. I'm so happy that Tom Cleverly has sought fit to keep him in the fold. I certainly hope that continues, because Barr was getting out on loan all the time, wasn't he? Season after season, on loan. And you really see he has really built up a good footballing pedigree now, and has got something about him that says he should belong on this Watford side. And I agree with you on that 100%. This score says on a YouTube, thank you very much indeed for everyone joining here. Make your comment on a YouTube or on X, in the comment section on X, or at the microphone if you wish. Uncle Ron did that earlier with his comments. Reading some more from you on YouTube. Thank you very much, fellow Watford supporters, for coming in and giving your comments to us all. Kayembe, says Viscore, had to hold that right midfield because Eboseli was slacking a lot defensively. Yeah, again, Eboseli was not great. I think I probably have a different view in terms of how bad he was. I know a lot of Watford fans were not impressed with Eboseli. I think he was definitely needs some more football. I don't think he was a disaster. He definitely had some purple patches in the game. Give him some time there, though, Vic Score. Hopefully he'll start to round into shape the next couple of games. Give him a run out and let's see what he can do. But I hear you on that. And Viscore adds, I think Rajovic should have been subbed on instead of Jebison. Well, of course, as you know, Viscore, I hope you know this, Jebison came on because there is no Rajovic at Vicarage Road. Rajovic was loaned out to Brondby during that window. So he is on a season-long loan. Viscor is Rajovic. He is on a season-long loan now in Denmark with Brøndby, the Danish club there. So that is why Rajovic did not feature. He will not feature for Watford this season, the rest of the way. And again, I want to just say something else about Rajovic again, because I said this in pre-match. I don't think Rajovic is going to even play again for Watford. I know that Uncle Ron was aghast at the fact that Rajovic had been let go. And he said that earlier on X. But I don't think, Cleverly can say what he wants to say about, well, we'll bring him back and he's in our plans. I'm sorry, if you loan him away for a year, for a season, and he's the only one scoring goals for you, I don't think he's in your plans, mate. I'm sorry, he's not. He's not. If you're telling us that he is going to get some seasoning by going to Denmark, again, I've got to be honest with you, because that's all I am when I'm talking about Watford or anything else for that matter. I'm sorry. He doesn't need to go to Denmark to get seasoning. He needs that in the Championship. Are you telling me, and I'm not talking to Cleverly here, I'm talking more generally now. Are you telling me that he couldn't have been loaned out to a Championship club? That the Championship didn't want him? Is that what it was with Rajovic? Because for me, I think, again, yes, his goals are welcomed. I'm not the biggest Rajovic fan. Spoiler alert. He doesn't do enough everywhere else on the pitch. It's so interesting because Bio does not score very much. He does everything else on the pitch. And then we've got Rajovic, who scores but doesn't do anything else on the pitch. I'm sorry, I've got to laugh. It is almost 10 o'clock in the morning here. And it's almost 6 o'clock where you are, if you're in the United Kingdom or wherever you might be across the world. It's kind of, that's the mix and match. And then you get rid of the goal scorer who, 11 or 12 for you last season? And you have plans for him next season? Listen, I'm skeptical about that. That's all I'm saying. I do not think that Rajovic, I'll be happy to be proved wrong, even though I'm not the biggest Rajovic fan. I don't think he's going to play another stitch of football for the club that we love. We will see. We'll see about that. I think it's a curious choice. And again, I think the only reason why Rajovic is gone is two reasons. One, he doesn't do enough to affect the game elsewhere. And you've got to be a two-way footballer. That's the way the game is. You can't just score. I mean, you can just score goals, but I'm sorry, you need to do other things to help your team out in the defending. You've got to do the dirty work, and the Bio is able to do that, And Rajovic doesn't have that profile. He doesn't use those strengths that he could use in all areas of the pitch. And I'm sure that's one of the biggest factors. And the other factor as to why Rajovic is no longer around is this. I think there's a calculation being made by the front office that goals can come from elsewhere, that goals can come off the bench, that goals can come from players in different positions on the pitch. So far, that's happened. TDB scored, Ryan Andrews, Sissoko, Georgie. Now he's injured, but Georgie scored against Millwall. Great free kick, goal of August. I think that that's the calculation that's being made. Kayembe scored 3 goals. I think that's the calculation. I think that figures into why we've not seen Rajovic back here. That's the way I'm looking at it. Still a load of your comments. Oh my goodness me. Your comments on YouTube. Thank you for them. After 5 games, says Matt on YouTube. Thank you, Matt, for your comments as always. Thank you for everyone on YouTube for commenting and on X for the comments and the comments typed in. We still got a load to read out here. My goodness me. Thank you for commenting. I really do appreciate this. This is what Matt had to say on YouTube, everybody. After just 5 games, I'm happy with 4th in the table. And right now, with the way we've played today, I'd be happy with top 10 by the end of the season. Yep. Thank you, Matt, for that. As Matt says, I don't think we can be really disappointed about Watford table-wise after 5 games. This is brilliant. 4th place, playoff spots, early doors, don't get me wrong, but you would have signed up for 4th place right now after 5 games. None of us here envisioned before this season began. None of us envisioned that Watford were going to be in 4th place after 5 games. I don't care who you are. If you told me that you predicted before the season that Watford after 5 games would be in 4th, you'd be lying. You'd be lying to yourself, let alone to me. There's no way on earth you would have seen Watford in 4th place here after 5 games. Haven't lost to the Vic, unbeaten at Vicarage Road. Not bad against a team today that had only lost once in its last 10 visits to the Vic. That is pretty good. I think that's progress for us, honestly. As bad as we played, we still got something out the game. Can't be that upset with Watford. Matt, I agree with you, Matt. Top 10 end of the season. Would anybody be disappointed at top 10 end of the season? I predicted they'd finish 8th, 9th, or 10th this season, mid-table. That's not bad from a team from where we were last season. I think that's really, to me, I measure the progress over from season to season and measure how we've gone. I mean, if you're going to only stick to the first 4 games of August, um, first 3 games of August, that's a tricky spot because you can't hang your head on only one or hang your hat on only 1 month of the season. You've got to look at this to see how they've progressed from there because we learned something today about our club. Resilient club, resilient stuff from us. Again, Matt, I agree with you. Brown Electron says, yeah, I agree. It's been a great start. We've got something to work on. Thank you, Brown. Brown says, clearly does not rate Rajovic. He said that to be nice. Thank you very much, Brown. I agree. I've said this again. You're going to play that game in front of the cameras. You know, it's a game of politics in a way. You're going to say the nice thing. You're going to be classy. You're going to be a class act. And Clevs is a class act. He's not going to dog his player. He's not going to dog his player in front of the cameras. He's not going to do that. So what is he going to do? He's going to say, yeah, you know, we have plans for him. He'll be back, blah, blah, blah. He's not going to be back. The fact that listen, if you send a player on loan to Denmark football or any team, I'm just saying I'm only saying Denmark because A, that's where he's gone. B, that's where he's from, I believe, from Denmark. And then C, Denmark football is a demotion from English football. Listen, this is not being nationalistic or anything. This is just being honest. If he was going to go somewhere, and if there were some realistic plans, and I'm doing air quotes on YouTube for those who can't see on X, if there were any realistic plans for Rajovic, he probably would have been loaned out to an English championship club. Probably to another club. But again, you know, I just don't think I agree with you, Brown. I don't see. I just think Cleverley's being way too nice. He's being nice. He's being a class act. He is not going to dog his player out. He's not going to say, well, we're sending him out because he hasn't cut the mustard in areas of the pitch that we would like. He's not going to say that. He's just not. Tom Cleverley is a decent man, a decent person. He's not going to dog his player publicly like that. Some managers have. We've seen managers do that. They've dogged their player in front of the cameras. Tom Cleverley's just not got that kind of thing in him, has he? You know, he's a demanding manager. He's serious. He's a decent, lovely guy. He's not going to rip Rajovic to the camera. He's just not going to do it. We all know that he has not got. Listen, I don't think he's got plans for him here. Some Watford fans a couple of weeks ago were telling me, oh, Clev said so. Clev said he's going to be back. Well, what you say in August and September ain't necessarily what's going to happen in June and July and August of the next year. So we all know that. We're adults in the room. We all understand that that's not how the world works, mate. If you're getting demoted, if you're getting tossed to Denmark, that's a demotion, mate. The end of story. I mean, Bio's out of here at the end of the season as well. He's basically a lone player now because Udinese has loaned him back to us. And I think he needs to make the most of that because, again, Jefferson needs to start these games. Thanks for the comment there, Brown. Brown's got another comment. Weren't Millwall and Ipswich interested? He should have went there. Yeah, I'd heard that. You know, I did, Brown. I heard that about Rajovic, that Millwall and Ipswich were interested in him. That was a rumor that went around a lot, hot and heavy, in August about them both wanting him. We're kind of looking at him, kind of batting their eyelids, if you will, at Rajovic. But it didn't work out, obviously. And I agree. Again, as I just said, should have gone there. He should, if there were some serious plans for him, you would have given him the seasoning at another championship club or another English level club, whether it be League One, which you probably wouldn't have wanted to play at, but even League. Boy, maybe I'm insulting. Maybe I am insulting Denmark if I say that Rajovic should have gone to League One football. Hey, he should have gone somewhere in England. He should have gone some. Why is he going to Denmark? I mean, obviously, because the simple answer is because they found a place from at Denmark. But again, I'm not really ridiculing Denmark. I'm just simply saying that if you really have plans for a player, I'm sorry, you're not sending him out to another country with their football being as it is. I mean, listen, I get it. There are players that do get sent to other countries who do come back and play the next year. But for Watford, no, I don't see that. I don't see it. Thank you, Brown. Matt says, I have to agree with you, Omar. If Rajovic needs to learn about how to play in the championship, he should have been sent on loan to a championship club, not somewhere out the championship. Thank you, Matt, for the comment. And hello there, Joe Larkin on YouTube. You odds. Well done, Joe. We're going to get to Instagram in about 5 minutes. I know I've been way too long on X. I am, by the way, going to work out a way to get all three platforms firing at once, so that we don't have to leave you on X, because X has been really good. Has some comments, had one comment and an audio comment so far, and we've got some listeners coming in as well. And I want to thank each and every one of you on X. We'll do this for another couple of minutes on X before I do have to switch to Instagram, because gosh, they've probably been waiting, or they probably scattered away, not wishing to wait for the You Orns Extra on the Instagram live. But that's coming up in a few short minutes. The comments are really good from those of you on YouTube. Keep them coming. Brown has come in. Brown Electrons on YouTube has said, I'm not a Rajovic fan, but I will say he looks like he's improved slightly, though. My problem with Rajovic was his physical presence. For a big man, he doesn't put it about enough. 100% there, Brown. I agree with you. No question about it. He doesn't make the use of his full physical attributes for a strapping lad, 6'4" lad in the championship. You've got to put yourself about, put yourself about. We've seen that. And I get it that you don't have enough real number nines anymore in the game of football. But the ones you do have, they put themselves about. I mean, whether it's someone like, again, I don't want to compare, but I'm just saying Erling Haaland, he gets his goals a million different ways. He's got good technical ability. He puts himself about. He's a big strapping lad like Rajovic. And I know he's obviously on a planet above Rajovic, but I'm just talking about from the principle of the man putting himself about, letting you know that he's in the building. And Rajovic don't do that. I'm sorry, he don't. So Brown, thank you for that. Larkin says, yeah, and I don't like the fact, says Larkin, Joe Larkin on YouTube. Thank you, Joe, for this comment. Yeah, and now I don't love the fact that we are stuck with Jebison as Bio and Bio as our two main strikers now. Yeah, it really becomes a glaring thing now, doesn't it, Joe? It does. That now we are really thin now in that front level, that striking level. Again, as I said before you popped in, Joe, on YouTube, that I think that the calculation has been made by the front office and the top brass and by the manager that they're going to live with getting goals from other areas of the pitch. That's what they've done. I think that their calculation is that, look, Rajovic just does not have the more dimensional attributes that is needed for what Tom Cleverley wants. Tom Cleverley wants the players to put a shift in all over the pitch wherever it's required. In fact, every manager wants that, not just Clevs, but Clevs wants hard workers who are going to graft. That's what it. Why do you think? I mean, I know Bio's leaving at the end of the season, but why do you think he didn't offset Bio? I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's all kinds of financial considerations for this, but he could have thrown that Bio out there and told him he can go and take a hike now, and we could have been without Bio for the season. And the reason why that didn't happen, in my view, is because Bio is a harder worker. Even though we don't score, he's a harder worker. I mean, and that's what Clevs wants. Clevs wants players who are going to graft for the shirt. I think we all do as Watford fans. Now, we'd love to see Bio score a lot more goals. And we wanted to see that forever here. He's just not scored enough goals, which is why he's going to be leaving at the end of the season. But if they weren't happy with Bio, they would have kept him. Bio was the one that wanted to leave. Remember that. Keep that in mind. Bio wanted to leave the club last season. Rajovic, it's not that he wanted to go. It's that Watford said he's got to go to Brøndby. Big difference. Big difference. Keep that in mind as well. And I know the scoring problem now with your strikers is going to now be blown up now as a result. If Watford had won this game, I think we probably would be talking a bit less about that situation. But we're talking about it because here we are. Here we are in a situation now. But I think you've got to be very happy otherwise with Watford. And I'm going to read one last one. Brown says we need Chris Iwelumo back. Yeah, yeah, Chris. I remember those days. Thank you for that, Brown. I'm going to say goodbye to those of you on X. It's been a pleasure having you aboard. We're going to switch to Instagram now. I am going to try to solve this and have all three of these platforms up at once in the next week or two. So, but by next week, we can have Instagram up, we can have X up, and we can have YouTube up all at the same time. So I don't have to leave anybody. That's the plan for next week. So we will see how that works. If I just take a look now at Watford, again, in fourth place. Next match is an early kickoff, 12:30 next weekend at Carrow Road, a place, of course, where Watford do very well. We lost the last time out there. That's the first time we'd lost at Carrow Road for a long time. But Watford normally do well at Norwich. Norwich have not gone off to a particularly great start this season, if I am correct in saying Norwich are in the bottom 10 in the table. So, they're one place below Coventry. So they have still yet to find their feet in the division. Norwich versus Watford, 12:30 kickoff next Saturday. I will say goodbye to you on X. We'll go for a few more minutes on YouTube and on Instagram. Next, that's coming up at YOU ORNS WFC on Insta. Please follow there. For those of you on X, thank you very much for joining. And we will continue for a few more minutes on Instagram and on YouTube. Thank you very much for those of you on X. Really appreciate you listening. Until next time on X, Norwich versus Watford. You Orns. Take care, those of you on X. We will see you next weekend or on Instagram. That's next. Thank you very much indeed. So that is the end of the stream on X. What I'm going to do now, fellow Watford supporters, is chime in on Instagram. It's great to have you aboard here on YouTube. Thank you very much. We'll go for about 5 or so minutes left on this as far as we go. Here we go on X, on YouTube. I'm reading from Tom Cleverley now, live on Georgie. I don't want to count our chickens yet, but it looks like it was a back spasm, which can be a little bit scary. It's not something you pick up every day. Early signs are really good. He's sitting up in the dressing room. That is very good news on Georgie, and I just left those on X. That is a very, very good piece of news. Good news indeed, says Brown Electrons. That is a fantastic, boy, oh boy. That is absolutely brilliant. My goodness, that's like Christmas time. I don't know. Listen, I don't, at least for me, that's like Christmas for me. I absolutely love that. That is absolutely what you want to hear your manager say as I get ready here on Instagram. And whoa, that's absolutely great. Larkin says there's a picture of him going up after the gate, after standing up after talking to the fans. And welcome, as I just get caught here on Instagram, YOU ORNS WFC, YOU ORNS WFC on Instagram and on YouTube. It is great to see you on Instagram. YOU ORNS Extra on Instagram Live and on YouTube continues after Watford won, Coventry won. Great news now from Tom Cleverley, which I've just read out to those of you on YouTube. I'll read it out on Instagram. We'll only go for 5 more minutes because we have been on the air here for about an hour now after Watford won, Coventry City won. The great news is Tom Cleverley statement a few minutes ago, I've just read it out, is that Georgie had a back spasm and he is able to sit up and he is in good shape. Tom Cleverley said in the statement he doesn't want to count his chickens, but right now it is a back spasm for Georgie. He said it was scary. It can be a scary thing. You don't get those very often during a game of football, said Tom Cleverley, or paraphrasing Tom Cleverley. But the good news is that Georgie is looking good. And that is tremendous, because you don't want injuries to any of your players, especially players who have been so impactful as Georgie has. It's just really a really good piece of news. It makes that 1-1 draw go down even better now for Watford. Zope has joined us on Instagram, and I know I came to you late on Instagram. I apologize for that. We're only going to do a few short minutes on Instagram. I promise you that I am going to do everything to get all of these platforms going at once, so that we can have a conversation here about our club that we love so very much, Watford Football Club. I think we've talked about everything we can talk about, but I'm going to do a brief recap for those of you just coming on Instagram, and thank you for doing so. I'll read out your comments for the next 5 minutes before we do have to go. And Joe has asked on YouTube about the man of the match. My man of the match for Watford, to me, was Larouci. Larouci, I mean, because I know Georgie did provide the assist and he was very good, but I thought Larouci was terrific today. I thought he was very active, put in some good balls in the first half and in the second half before he was taken off. I was quite surprised, actually, that he was taken off the pitch in the second half. I thought Larouci was excellent. And again, Georgie was very good as well. But Larouci, for me, is the man of the match, even though we got a point. Thank you there, Joe. Brilliant stream as always, Omar, says Brown Electrons. Thank you very much, Brown. We'll be just doing this for another couple of minutes. I want to just recap for those of you who have joined on Instagram. Thank you for doing that. The bottom line is that Watford today did not play well the first half. Awful, awful marking. Very poor for that goal that Coventry scored. A goal that should not have been allowed to have been scored. Sims with an easy header, unobstructed, untouched. He roamed about. He was never tracked. Not a single Watford player ever tracked him. Not once. And in the 4th minute, he scored easily. It was very, very easy. It was shambolic how poor the defending was. Watford were fortunate not to be boxed out of the game. By halftime, they should have been down at least 3-0. And Coventry were very, very unlucky not to have scored again. If Coventry had scored a second goal, they would have gone on to win the game in that first half. They did not, and they rued their chances because they hit a post second half. Watford were very good, much better second half. Should have scored a second goal. Daniel Jefferson had that chance, didn't he? And he flicked off he tried to flick it in and be fancy. It was a tough angle for him because he had his back to goal. He tried to flick it past the goalkeeper. So it was difficult, but he still should have scored in that situation, and we could have had a chance to win the game. But I don't think we deserve to win the game today. I think a point is about right. I predicted a 2-1 scoreline before the game started. I've been off by a goal with every prediction I've made. Got none of them right in terms of the actual score exactly. I've got some of the results correct, except for today's, one of the ones today, and I was off by a goal in every prediction I've made for Watford before the game in terms of the championship this season. But yeah, this was a tough one for Watford. The defense was very, very shaky first half, better in the second half. The comments coming in, Joe Larkin says, certainly a game of 2 halves. Thanks, Joe, for that. Brown Electron says, great ball from Pollock. He's been terrific this season. Yeah, Pollock's been excellent. He got the yellow card, I think, in the second half of the game. Was it the first half, Brown? Not sure. But he got a yellow today. But Pollock did well. But the defense overall was not good. Not pleased with it. They improved second half. Midfield was poor. That's the other thing I want to say for you on Instagram. The midfield was poor today, although they got a better grip of the game in the second half. TDB scoring the goal as well from his first of the season. But I think you've got to be pleased with the point, considering everything, considering that Coventry had in their last 10 trips to the Vic before today, had only lost one of them, had only lost one of their last 10 trips to the Vic. Coventry are a very good side. I said this before in pre-match. Coventry are a difficult side. Watford have trouble with them at the Vic. And if you've only lost one of your last 10 visits to the Vic, I think that shows that you're a pretty blooming good side. I know our home form had been awful during a lot of that, but Coventry City are a good team. Mark Robbins is a good manager. Remember, 2 seasons ago, he got them to the playoff final. So can't complain there. And that's basically my wrap of Watford for you on Instagram. And that's really the wrap for the day here on Instagram and on YouTube and on X earlier. I want to thank you so very much indeed for being a part of the You ORNS post-match and the pre-match earlier. Really appreciate your comments and your kind words as well. We will be back here, of course, next weekend. For those of you on Instagram, we're going to try to make it so that you can come in literally right at the beginning of these games, right after the end of the game, I should say, and we'll try to have all three platforms, X, YouTube, and Insta, all up at once, so we can have a good cross section of Watford fans commenting and giving their views about this game and about any game. Next weekend, it's Norwich against Watford. That's the one to look for. Watford on the road to take on a Norwich City side that they've dominated for the most part in a load of these games. We lost 4-2 to them last season at Carrow Road. That's the first time we'd lost at Carrow Road for an awfully long time. But the bottom line is that Norwich have got off to a pretty sticky start. 1-1, drawn 2, lost 2. They are sitting around 15th in the table. Watford in 4th place. Look, you would not have bought 4th place for Watford. You wouldn't have. Thank you, Mal, for joining on Instagram. We are almost coming to an end here of this long post-match. I apologize for those of you on Instagram. I did not come to you earlier because there was a lot of comments on X, like some people chiming in, and a lot of comments on YouTube. I'm not blaming anybody. I do appreciate your comments everywhere they come from on Watford FC. We will try next week, I promise, to get all three of these platforms running directly after the game so we can all have some say and talk about this game together. Norwich Watford is next Saturday, the 21st. That's a 12:30 kickoff local time, obviously. And so Watford travel to a really happy hunting ground for them. They will look to try to improve upon their 4-2 defeat there, though last season when Espria scored an outstanding goal in that match. I do remember that, seeing the highlights, because I didn't watch that game. And that's one of the few games I didn't see. Maybe one of two that I didn't see the whole of last season. Maybe one of the only game I didn't see from a championship standpoint for Watford last season was that 4-2 defeat Espria with an absolute rocket of a goal. But Espria has gone elsewhere. He is in Girona now, playing in Spain. Watford have Norwich then next Saturday, and then Tuesday the 24th of September, if we're looking ahead, they've got a match at Manchester City. That would be the Carabao Cup. Good luck there, as far as that's concerned. And then after that, as we look ahead to the end of September, it's Watford at home against Sunderland. That's a big clash at the Vic. Watford versus Sunderland, massive clash there. Two of the teams at the top end of the table. Remember, Sunderland dropped their first game of the season today. Their 100% record comes to an end today. They got beat today by Plymouth Argyle. I was surprised by that. Did not expect that. Plymouth, I did not rate as a beaten Sunderland, but they did. They beat Sunderland today. And that's what you have in the championship. You never know what can happen. They lost 3-2 at Plymouth today. That is a real surprise. Plymouth, who were literally in the bottom 8, bottom 9 in the table, were able to get a win, their first of the season, against the likes of Sunderland. So that is a real surprise there. But Sunderland still at the top. Blackburn Rovers in second on 11 points, Sunderland on 12. Burnley, who won again today, they win at Leeds. That's a very impressive win for Burnley. Burnley on 10 points in third place. I think Burnley have got to be one of the hot favorites to come right back up to the Premier League after last season. Watford right behind them on 10 points as well. They're in fourth. West Bromwich Albion on fifth on 10 points. They play, I think, tomorrow, does West Brom. And then Sheffield United on 9 points in sixth place. West Bromwich Albion play tomorrow at Portsmouth. And so we'll see how all of that goes. Carlos Corberan, the manager of West Brom, done a pretty decent job there. West Bromwich Albion are yet to lose this season in the championship. Blackburn Rovers, West Brom, and Sheffield United are the only teams yet to lose in the championship so far, as everybody else has taken at least one defeat this season. Leeds were one of them today, as I said, losing at home to Burnley by a score of 1-0. I'll read out final comments on YouTube. Although Sierra Alta says Joe Larkin also had a good game today. Yeah, fair point. Sierralta had a good game. He made some really good recoveries and was able to prevent Coventry from doing some damage. Sierralta and Pollock were very good today, even though the defense overall to me was not a good cup of tea. But I agree with you, Joe Larkin on YouTube. Definitely today, I thought that Sierralta had a good game, to be fair. Thank you for mentioning him. I had not done so. Brown Electron says, we normally do all right against Norwich. Yep, we certainly do. We did have, again, apart from that 4-2 defeat last season with Asprilla scoring the wonder goal, that's the only time, speaking of Coventry, because Coventry had some again, they only lost one in their last 10 trips to the Vic. We've only lost one of our last at least 10 trips to Carrow Road. So, I think we can go into Norwich next Saturday, early afternoon, and make an impression. I think we'll have a good training session this week, and we'll see how that goes. We'll see what happens there as far as this concerned. I've got looks like a video request coming in from Gary Costa, and let's see if we can get him going here on Instagram. Nothing there, unfortunately. I can't get Gary on. Gary, thank you. I'm sorry, for some reason, not able to get you up and running here for the live video request. So I've got to say goodbye to that one. Can you try again if you'd like to? You're more than welcome. Reading out the rest of your final comments here for this one on YouTube. I do not want, says Matt, to hand it to the ref. I do, excuse me, let me repeat that. Matt, thanks for this. I do want to hand it to the ref. He let the game flow. And if there was any time wasting, he wasn't having any of it. Yeah, you're speaking, Matt. Thank you for the comment. You're speaking, Matt, of Bobby Madley, who was once a Premier League referee, but he disgraced himself with a matter that I won't even go into now. You can go look it up online. But he disgraced himself as a Premier League manager with some off the field situations, which I won't, again, you can go look that up. But today, Bobby Madley was brilliant. I thought Bobby Madley was very good. And I don't say that often about Bobby Madley. His brother, his older brother, Andy Madley, is a very good referee in the Premier League. Andy Madley, I think, is the best referee that the Premier League has. Michael Oliver, Anthony Taylor, no. We can go down all the list, right, of all these referees in the Premier League. But I do, and Stuart Outwell's terrible. But I think that in the Premier League, the referee who's very, very good is Andy Madley. Now, his younger brother, Bobby, did do a good job today. As you said, Matt, you're absolutely right, Matt, on YouTube. Definitely, Bobby Madley did a very good job refereeing the game. I thought he was very strict with the time situation. He was very exact on that. I think he got the call spot on. Probably the best referee Watford have had this season is Bobby Madley. And I think he's done better since he's come back from his exile, shall we say, from Premier League refereeing. When he's come back to the Championship, he's been very good. He's been solid. Good point there, Matt. Thank you very much for it. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. I know it was an abbreviated Instagram session today, and I apologize for to Instagram users. Next week, definitely determined to get all of these platforms up and running at the same time. Cheers to you, Joe. Thank you very much for that comment. He says, cheers, Omar, on YouTube. Thank you, Joe. Cheers to you. Have a good rest of your evening there in the United Kingdom. And for everybody watching on Instagram or YouTube, and thank you for those of you who listened on X. Thank you so very much indeed. Don't forget, subscribe to the You ORNS WFC YouTube channel. Please do that if you haven't already done so. You can find You ORNS on X at You ORNS WFC. And of course, right here on Instagram as well at You ORNS WFC. I promised you podcast episode coming up later on. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you, everybody. This has been the You ORNS post-match. Please like the videos that you see on the You ORNS WFC YouTube channel. Thank you all for your comments. Have a good rest of your Saturday and your weekend. The final score today, Watford 1, Coventry City 1. Georgie, the big news there, according to Tom Cleverley, back spasms, not as bad as first feared. Thank you very much, Matt, for the kind comments again. Always. Thank you for a great post-match stream, says Matt. It is always great to chat about our team. It certainly is, Matt. Well said as well to you. For everyone, and to all of you as fellow Watford fans, thank you so very much. Omar here in San Francisco, talking and saying and wishing you a great day. Watford won, Coventry won the final score. We are in 4th place and we will get better. Good start so far. No complaints here. Until next time, you ORNS. Take care, everyone, and have a very good evening. Take care now.